Thank you to everyone who's attended. We are going to wait one more minute and let a few others in. Thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning from beautiful Sydney, Australia. I know we do have a few registrants from all over the globe. And thank you for joining us during this gorgeous coffee, maybe happy hour for some of those in other areas. This webinar will be recorded for future use, and we'll also be sharing some slides with all the attendees as a follow-up note. But please take some screen grabs, if you will, follow-up questions as well. My name is Jacqueline Corwarden, head of agency at Digivisor. I do have to extend my apologies from our CEO, Emma LaRusso, who was due to host today. Unfortunately, she is not able to present, so I'll be taking her place. Both of us would love to connect with everyone and all of our attendees in the near future. I do begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, and we pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. I extend that same respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders that may be here today. Digivisor is very proud to be Australia's first and only LinkedIn marketing partner. We've been recognized as a marketing partner since March of 2023, and we continue to test, learn, and build B2B brands together with LinkedIn. We love bringing the best knowledge to our team and our clients. For those of you who may not be as familiar with Digivisor, it's an all-in-one marketing analytics platform that seamlessly ignites your owned, earned, and paid media in one holistic dashboard. Our platform makes it easy to review data in seconds to create actionable insights and immediate optimizations that strengthen your marketing approach. We'll get more into that later. Looking at the agenda this morning, I'm really excited and very appreciative to welcome two very special Lucys. Two Lucys is always better than one. Not only will they be sharing expertise in this webinar, but they'd love to connect with you and follow on LinkedIn. Extend your relationship and always keep learning with them. I think we all love that about B2B marketing. There's always more to crack together. We'll first hear from LinkedIn's Lucy Saunter. The power of LinkedIn has never been greater to capitalize on sophisticated targeting with your advertising campaigns. And we'll help you understand how your investment can work smarter. We then have Lucy Bingle, and she is sharing the importance of personal branding and thought leadership on LinkedIn. We know there's many strong marketing minds on this webinar who might look for new methods of building their own brand, which in can return grow their business and company following. After we hear from the Lucys, I'll share a few of my own insights on how you and your team can win through measurement first in B2B. So we've crafted a perfect learning session and how you can build a bespoke B2B strategy across LinkedIn. Please add your questions to the queue and we'll have an informative Q&A at the end. With that, I'm going to welcome Lucy Saunter. Lucy, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your role and background before you jump into your slides.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Hi, everybody. I think this slide is a bit of a wake-up call that I need a new headshot because I'm clearly not a blonde anymore. But my name is Lucy. I am Lucy Saunter, and I'm a product marketing manager at LinkedIn. So what that means is that anytime that LinkedIn launches a marketing product, I'm responsible for making sure that APAC's voices is heard, our customer feedback's heard, that we have a seat at the table when we're making these products, but also when we launch them, that they come to our region and we have the right resources to talk about them, to be really successful and to get the most results out of all of these products that launch. And I love, no surprises, talking about LinkedIn. We're in a really, really great stage of growth at the moment, 900 million members, a huge amount of decision makers, and really, really like the place to be for B2B. So I'm really excited to take everyone through Today, just a little bit more about LinkedIn, specifically around paid marketing on LinkedIn, but we're going to touch on a whole different places to make you more efficient. I wanted to set the scene though first and start talking a little bit more about B2B challenges, because as B2B marketers, we know that your challenges are different. The way businesses think and make decisions is different. For example, we know that in the advertising industry, we understand how households buy like household goods like toothpaste, cereal, detergent, but about IT managers managing and buying CRM software is something that's a little bit more complicated and that we don't necessarily talk about as much as that B2C world. So that's what LinkedIn is here for you to do. Your objectives are really to reach those buying groups, to measure the broader impact, and to navigate those really complex ecosystems. And in order to do that successfully, you need to build relationships with influence. You need to have the ability to measure that impact that proves ROI and have a really strong internal collaboration. So let's talk about the complex ecosystems, because I don't think it's ever been more complicated to market and the buying journey has never been more complicated from a B2B standpoint. We know that 59% of people say that or 59% of B2B marketers say that it's a greater need to demonstrate return on investment, ROI of tech investments. They're constantly having to prove back the value of their marketing activity. We know that the purchase cycle is just getting longer and longer and more complicated. In fact, 47% of marketers are saying that that is getting more complicated and more complex. And 47% also say that there's a huge amount of decision makers, and those stakeholders are only growing in decision making. So it's more imperative than ever for you to think about how to reach all different parts of the buying group and all different decision makers, not just that one person in the marketing seat. And that's where LinkedIn comes in. And so LinkedIn really is for B2B. B2B marketers, we get you. We can do marketing across the board, but really like our foundations and our platform is built on B2B. There's a couple of different reasons for that. The first is that we have a really motivated audience with a growth mindset. We like to say that people come to LinkedIn to be more productive and successful. And that's really the core of everything that we build our products on, and how we navigate those member relationships and making sure this platform is set up for longevity. Relationship results and respect is really the pieces of the puzzle that where marketing plays in. So we know that long-term relationships are just really, really imperative to driving business results and driving career growth as well. And we live in a very short-term world. So making sure that we are creating those connections, those long-term relationships is really imperative. We're starting to see and we've always had it, but I think over the last couple of years, a real emphasis on measurement and results in what products that we build. And so really at the core of everything that we are creating, it's about how do we drive more results for our customers, for our members, for our businesses and our partners, anyone who is working with us. And respect, working with a platform that respects the world that you operate in. B2B is really complicated and really nuanced as well. And so being able to come to you with products that actually are a really good fit for your business, but also for you to be able to talk to the right members at the right time. We know that our member base is all first party data. So members come to our platform and they fill out their profiles themselves. So they're giving us their own data pieces, which means our data sets are really, really strong for you to be able to reach the right member at the right time. If we're pivoting down into LinkedIn ads specifically and the paid marketing point of view, we know that there is a significant amount of full funnel pieces that play into here. More members are likely to convert when they're exposed to both paid and organic. So that full funnel multi-touch is really important. We know that more members are driving more decision making. We've got really scalable approaches to be able to reach more of your audiences more often on your LinkedIn, on our partners and publishers as well. Intent from brand, like LinkedIn is a very strong branding platform as well. You'll be able to increase your brand presence, and the marketing that you're doing on LinkedIn really has a a really key impact on all of your other touch points on LinkedIn and elsewhere. And we know that we have more engagement generally than a lot of other traditional forms. And so it's a really great way to meet people and reach the right members at the right time. If we go into the next slide. And so we've kind of gone a little bit into LinkedIn, a little bit into paid marketing. What I want to do with my remaining time is making sure that you're set up for the right success. So like the ultimate cheat sheet, if you're thinking about getting started with LinkedIn marketing, perhaps, or you're already using LinkedIn marketing and you want some of those tips, like what are the really core things you can do from a paid marketing perspective to really drive the most success from your campaigns? So when we're getting started, we think about choosing our objective, and this is where I really think is the most important step. Making sure you're choosing the right objectives to what you're trying to measure as a business is really, really imperative because it's how our platform is built to make sure that every step behind that is optimizing towards whatever this objective is. So really make sure that you're aligned as a business about what objective that you're choosing. Targeting criteria, we've got a whole heap of different targeting facets, all first-party data, but you can also bring your own data there as well. So if you've got contact lists, retargeting, account lists, anything like that, we're able to do that as well. So choosing the right targeting pieces. Choosing your ad formats, a whole heap of different ones that are all for different points. I've got a bit of a cheat sheet coming up that I can show you that will say which kind of format fits into the right space depending on what your objective is. Setting your budget and schedules, it's the next step down. It's really easy. It gives you recommendations on what your budget should be, what your bid type should be, and you're able to set specific flight dates there as well. And then the last one, probably most important after choosing your objective, in my opinion, is making sure you're measuring and optimizing. So constantly going back, looking at those insights. This is where Digivisor can really come in as well. But making sure that you're reevaluating, you're evolving based on your results and the kinds of impact that you're able to drive. When we're thinking about paid marketing, we've got our campaign set up now. We're all set in terms of our campaign setup. There are 3 levers that you can use to really drive the most success with your LinkedIn marketing. And that's when you're looking in Campaign Manager and optimizing, you're thinking about what you could do to improve your results. This is really the space that you should be thinking of. So targeting, bid and budget, and content are your big 3 that you have within your control. So let's start off with targeting. My top tip here is making sure that you're choosing the right audience. We have so many different targeting facets that it's really tempting to go ahead and either add all of them into one campaign or potentially even hyper target and go really, really specific. And I would encourage you against that purely because you want to drive the right results from the right member. So don't lump in your buyer personas into one campaign, separate them out to ensure that your content is really reaching the right audience. And make sure that your buyer personas are really clear and well-defined. So when you're looking through to set up your campaigns, thinking about who you want to reach, what your content is talking to, and what that's going to say to that specific member. In Campaign Manager, you can see there's a forecasted results panel, and I think this is a really great tool to use to kind of get a bit of an understanding of like who you are targeting. So when you update your targeting, you'll be able to see this audience and the forecasted results that comes up. You'll be able to see how big your audience size is, but you can also see a segment breakdown of what that looks like. So who actually is making up your audience and adjusting accordingly there. The next piece is bidding. So bid and budget, another way you can really influence how your campaign is running, the results that you're getting. A couple of tips for bidding: starting at the higher end of the range, especially when you're starting out, is a really great way to break into the auction. Once you've started running campaigns for a little bit of time, you can start bringing it down, but just making sure that you're really competitive from the get-go is really important. Monitoring campaign performance again, and looking at what that bid looks like in terms of dips and key metrics. Sometimes an audience is really, really competitive. That means that lots of different other companies are also targeting that audience. So it maybe have to increase your bid to ensure that you are reaching that right member. In some cases, it might be a bit of a green space and you might be able to lower your bid. So really monitoring performance there. There's a couple of different types of bid types. There's manual, but there's also maximum delivery. Maximum delivery is a really great way to let the platform do the work for you, adjusting that based on what your goals of your campaign is. Looking at different types of bid types and over time, reviewing over time. The bid you pay is, or the bid you enter rather, is not necessarily the price you pay. So you'll be paying 1 cent more than the competitor. So if you win the bid, 1 cent more than their last bid. So it flexes to really drive those results for you. And making sure that you're reviewing, especially how your content is, because your content is really the key to getting that lower bid. A lower bid price, if you have got really great content, the platform's going to reward you for delivering value to our members. And so it all kind of plays into each other. It's a really great way to think about how you can optimize your overall activity and how all those levers play into place. Speaking of content, this is the last one I'm going to leave you with. There's a couple of different content cheat sheets coming up. So if we jump across the next one, perfect. Content cheat sheets, we won't go into all of this. We'll send you the slides afterwards. But depending on what objective that you are setting up, there are different ad formats that you can use. You can review these afterwards, but it's ones that we've seen kind of different kinds of success in. You can play around, test and learn is always my advice, but thinking about how you could use these different ones at different stages. We'll send you this afterwards so that you can see it too. But the last one I want to leave you with, especially around content, is around that full funnel, doing more with less and making sure that your marketing activity is working as hard as possible for you. So on the next slide, we've got a couple of different stats that you can use, potentially take back to your wider teams if you're talking to sales and marketing, but thinking about how you can really do a connected strategy. So using different types of content, using both content and messaging, working with your sales team to drive more of results for them and get that alignment. We know that members, when they're exposed to more different types of advertising, whether that's paid or organic, they're more likely to convert and more likely to respond to your sales teams as well. So really encourage you to have a think about how your different types of content can work with each other to really generate the most efficiencies for you. I think I'm at my time, so I'll leave you there.
You're very well on time. You still have 2 minutes, but I might ask you a few questions because some content in there.
Perfect.
There's a few things that definitely spoke to me. The buying cycles was one from the very beginning, and I know as B2B marketers, you said we live in a short-term world. We want instantaneous results, and every company will differ. How do we teach clients to just be a little more patient with measurement in B2B? Do you have any tips there? I know I'm throwing this one at you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I think measurement is really imperative, but so often, yes, you're right. We get really impatient, especially in the B2B world, of wanting those like measurement results really quickly. There are a couple of different ways that I would use to advise customers when I worked in the sales world in LinkedIn to think about this. So we'd start kind of with a joint strategy, right? Like we know that you've got stakeholders that kind of want those results really quickly. Let's think about what we can give them immediately, but also setting up that kind of long-term foundation to start building up and what we can measure over time. And so again, it could be working with Digivisor. It could be looking at, depending on what your objective is, some longer term measurement uplift pieces. So like a brand lift study that measures over time alongside your current campaign results, or potentially some kind of revenue attribution pieces. So we've got a revenue attribution report, a couple of different tools that you've got access to. And so I think it's about creating that balance. Obviously, I would love, I think we individually would love if we could go straight into that long term, but sometimes it's not realistic.
That's great. I think it is keeping all parties happy along the journey and just using data to tell your story. The other question, and you spoke about how content can be rewarded on the platform, which I think is a really great concept for everyone to understand. So it does go into kind of that big chicken and egg paradox of marketing. What does come first? Is it content or is it the paid media strategy? And how do we work with that brand a little closer on that?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if I can say which one comes first, but I can the pros and cons. I feel like in my heart of hearts, I think strategy comes first. Like I think when you've got that really set up, when you've got that clear plan, it makes it much easier for you. But it depends on what stage you're at, right? Like if you are doing a lot of organic content and it's working really, really well for you and you're in kind of that stage, like playing with that and building in like that as your starting point into your paid, I feel like is a really easy and accessible way to do it. And so in that stage, you might start with your content. But if you're starting from a new campaign, starting from scratch, I would always go with the strategy piece first, thinking about what you want to achieve, what your objectives are, and building it up around there.
And I do love that about the audience builder because you can actually look at audience, at total spend, what you'd actually get for that investment and kind of project from there. Wonderful. Well, we're going to save a few more questions. Please drop those questions for Lucy Saunter into the chat and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much. And on to our next Lucy. I'm going to call you LB. Is that all right this morning, Lucy Bingle?
That's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being a strong partner of Digivisor. And I know you're eager to get into your slides, but will you really quickly share a bit about yourself and lucybingle.com?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm CEO and founder of lucybingle.com, and we're a digital marketing agency that solely focuses on LinkedIn. That's what we do all day, every day, and work with SMEs and large corporates delivering LinkedIn strategies. But I'm a marketer first and foremost and have been for over 25 years. So I definitely come from a background where I've looked after both clients, and I've been agency side as well, and I've been corporate side as well. So I have that sort of complete understanding of marketing and their objectives and their challenges and what they're trying to achieve. And I suppose that's why I then saw the opportunity where I just could see that LinkedIn, you had partners, people, leaders, stakeholders. You've got everybody sitting on one platform. And for me, that was sort of like this perfect platform to be then marketing your business, your services, and getting the results that you need. And so that's sort of when I set up 8 years ago, lucybingle.com. Okay, so thank you very much for the introduction, Jackie. What I'm going to do today, so hearing Lucy's overview around paid and around where LinkedIn should be sitting for you guys, I think it's really nice to then look at it from an organic perspective. So I'm really all about getting organizations to understand that it's super important to have your people and your brand set up on LinkedIn to really get that success. And when I look at a client, I go, righto, how are your people positioned? How are you placed on the platform? And then how do you actually meet the market requirements to meet those objectives that you're trying to achieve from a sales and marketing perspective, and a talent attraction perspective as well, which I think is super important. So as I said earlier, I've got a LinkedIn agency. This is what we do. We look after many large corporates. So we're doing this every day of the week. And we're going to deep dive today into one of our clients, which is Hassif International, because we've just achieved really great success with those guys. But they're actually really good, concrete and tangible strategies and tactics that you guys could be implementing yourselves with your business. And that's why I really want to talk about those today. Okay, so when we look at a client, I say, look at brand, people, content. Okay, so they're the three big levers to think about when you're setting up your LinkedIn strategy. And the reason they're so important is because we know that if you actually have your people positioned properly and your brand positioned properly on LinkedIn, that you'll achieve these goals, being building brand awareness, validating what you do, showcasing the problems you solve, and nurturing those relationships. And the results will be not only just attracting talent to be looking at the organisation, but you will also start to get eyeballs of prospects looking at your brand. You also get your current client list continuously seeing you, and that's reaffirming in their mind that you're a really good partnership. And this is where the commercial opportunities come into being. So think about, how is your team positioned and how are you individually? You know, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure many people on this session are looking after teams and are looking at it from a marketing objective for a brand, but you might also be a consultant or a solopreneur trying to think about how you could do better. So the first thing that I want you to think about is how to optimize your LinkedIn profile page, because at the end of the day, that's your online capability statement that talks to what you do, the challenges you solve, and how you help. Okay, so rather than thinking of your LinkedIn profile page like you may have 10 or 15 years ago as a CV, think of it as an evolving document that is a really, really sound, vibrant, dynamic capability statement. Then look at your team, because it's also the first digital touch point anybody has for anybody in your organization or yourself. So if it looks really rubbish, you're missing an opportunity. So optimize that LinkedIn profile page. The next thing I want you to think about is, okay, it's not a set and forget, right? So they've got the page set up, but what are they actually doing on LinkedIn to further support the corporate strategy and get behind the messaging and the good stories that you guys are sharing on the platform? So what are you expecting them to do in the first instance? So when I train organizations, I have this expression called LinkedIn for breakfast. We have a LinkedIn for breakfast program, which is, I only want you to be getting on that platform 3 to 4 times a week for 30 to 40 minutes. So everybody, that's really achievable for everyone, okay? I'm not here to create a new day job for you. I'm really, okay, what can you get your people to do a couple of times a week and to do effectively? And we know that that might be engaging with your company page posts. If you're actually in those photos or were at that event, you know, or had that new hire start for you, make sure you're not just hitting the like button, that you're actually giving some really sound commentary that further showcases that, you know, you really do support those pieces of content that are being shared on the company page. Make sure you're interacting with your key stakeholders and partner pages, and also key influencers that you should be getting in front of. So looking at your feed, starting to curate that feed so that it's actually sharing the right type of content and actually valuable and interesting content, and engaging with it, because there's no point sitting on the sidelines in LinkedIn. Nobody notices you there. The way you get noticed is actually by engaging with the platform. So one of my little things that most people don't realize is that only 1% of LinkedIn members are content creators. And what that means is only 1% of that 900 million that are sitting on this platform are actually taking time to create posts and putting them out there, which means often when you're looking at your LinkedIn feed, you're thinking, gosh, you know, I see the same people all the time. Well, that's right, because there's only 1%. So you need to be the difference. So that's the opportunity that I really want you to take away from today, that those little steps are actually really big steps in the LinkedIn world, because it actually really pushes you out there. It builds brand visibility, not just of the corporate brand, but also your personal brand. And that's super important, because that actually makes you get seen as a trusted advisor and an expert in your space. I really want you to turbocharge your company page, because at the end of the day, going back to those first digital touch points, it's one thing to land on Lucy Bingle's page, but if you're going to read my profile page, see what I do, how I do it, the services I provide, you'll then see where I work, and then you can double click on my logo and you'll land on a company page, which is effectively like a microsite of your website. So it's another digital touch point to, again, validate that you guys are really great at what you do, that you've got really good people. And it's also an opportunity to set that page up like a microsite of your website. Therefore, talking about who's in the business, what you do, the services you provide, the products you have, the insights and knowledge, leadership, innovation, so that then motivates the visitor to then actually go off to the website, pick up the phone, send an email, or do whatever they want to do to get in touch with you. So people positioning is super important, brand positioning on the company page, getting your people active, not just, you know, sitting on the sidelines and hitting like every now and then, actually engaging. And I would actually say on that point, mobilizing your leadership teams, you know, because they lead from the front. So if they're seeing their boss actually engaging on LinkedIn and writing commentary on their partners page or their key clients pages or on their own company pages and supporting the corporate strategy, it gives a really strong message to the wider employee group that it's okay to be active on LinkedIn and to support the corporate strategy. And it also demonstrates great leadership because it showcases them as valuing their people and the services that they provide and the good work that they're doing. When you've got that organic piece set up, i.e. your people's page is done, the company page moving, I then want you to start thinking about activating those LinkedIn campaigns, exactly like what Lucy was saying earlier, because that's how you then turbocharge your brand presence, because you can then put some really good money behind some quality content that you want to get into a targeted group of people. So, you know, that would be my next step, is overlaying your organic strategy with a paid campaign. The other reason that's really important to have those organic pieces done first is because if you've got a really good ad campaign that's going, you don't then want people looking at that that piece of content and then traveling to the company page and saying that nothing's going on, or finding other people that work in that organization and they've got these really, you know, thinly filled profile pages that don't have headshots or background images or even have any information about what they do or deliver. So you want the whole ecosystem to come together to have a really strong brand visibility. And then, as Lucy said, measuring success, you know, looking at how are your people performing, how are those paid campaigns performing, you know, which leaders are actually, from an organic perspective, really getting involved with content, sharing good content, and what are their posts doing, and how, you know, how many eyeballs are they getting across them, and is there actually an audience of people that they're infiltrating that we should be connecting with or getting our business development team to talk to. So there are, you know, different pieces of the puzzle, but it's not rocket science. It's actually just about actually getting it done. So, you know, when I do training, I talk a lot about optimize, personalize, and socialize. So optimize your profile pages, your company pages, personalize the LinkedIn strategy, get your people to start building out their LinkedIn community with the right people. So who are they? You know, they need to identify who is their customer avatar, who are the people that they need to be connecting in with on LinkedIn and engaging with. And then how do they socialize on the platform? What does that look like? What do you want your people to be doing on the company page? What do you want your leaders to be sharing from an organic perspective each week, whether that be by a post or whether that be by engaging with their top 10 clients? So giving them some real actionable points to take away and do for you. So they're the strategic pillars that I want you to think about when you set up your LinkedIn strategy for your business. Okay, Jackie, thanks. Okay, so given that I've looked at it from a holistic point of view, I just want to talk to you about HACCP International. So these guys are a global certification body for the food industry. And when they came to us, they had 4,000 followers, and which was a good number, but they were pretty flat on what they were actually doing there. And they were also very time poor, and they were really stretched because they're a global organization. Their marketing team, you know, had lots of other, you know, things that they need to be responsible for. And they just didn't know the LinkedIn space. And so they then outsourced it to us, and we now look after it for them. So the primary objective for them was to build brand awareness, and they wanted to get into some new geolocations. So it was to really get their brand out there, known globally, and to actually educate the market on what they do, how they help, and the challenges they solve. So given that they didn't have that knowledge in-house, or they didn't know what to do with their LinkedIn strategy, they then came to my team, and then I assigned them a senior marketing account manager who then looks after them, and they actually go in and they review how everybody's profile pages are looking, and then they look at the company page and they work very closely with the marketing team to align their key pillars with what can be communicated then on the LinkedIn company page. So as I said, we started from a 4,000 follower, but they'd never done an audit, for instance, on their LinkedIn activity. So they didn't actually even have a benchmark of where they were starting, and they'd never looked at any of their team's LinkedIn profile pages. So Jackie, if you just jump to the next one for me. So what we did was we then initially we did a LinkedIn audit. So we look at how the last 3 months they performed on the company pages, where everybody's profile pages were at, and then we gave them recommendations and steps to improve their LinkedIn profile pages, to change up their LinkedIn company page. And then, as I said, we start curating relevant and valuable content to be getting communicated through HACCP. Now, one of the big tips that has worked for us, especially with this client, is leveraging their partners. They have an enormous amount of food partners who are everything from production, manufacturers, but I'm talking about equipment. So there were lots of different organisations that they already worked with every day that they could then start to showcase their partner pages. So as part of their agreement, they actually will share content from their partners on their HACCP International page, because they're valued partners, they have really great product and services, and so they were able to then leverage those pieces of content on the page for them. And of course, what that meant was that we got all these eyeballs from all these other organisations looking at the HACCP International page, engaging with it. They became subscribers to the newsletter. That's my next tip, is set up a LinkedIn newsletter. The LinkedIn newsletter for HACCP International has gone gangbusters. It's so much stronger than any of their third-party platforms, and I believe it's because you can pull together all these key decision makers and audiences that actually need to see HACCP International, and because they're already following the company pages, they then immediately subscribe to the newsletter. That then got shown to all their network that they would have, and so we were getting a lot of people that were completely outside our orbit signing up and subscribing to those newsletters. So partner posts are valuable. The LinkedIn newsletter has been amazing. Mixing up the content, that's super important. So actually having the page be interesting and engaging all the time. So often when I go into clients, I'll see that they've done a really good job with their LinkedIn company page, but it'll look flat because I think they try to adopt nearly an Instagram feel about it. So they try to have everything looking so curated. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly, but they look like tiles nearly. So it actually it comes across boring, and it doesn't grab you because each post nearly looks the same, where I would actually say if you mix it up with video, infographics, long form articles, animations, and just keep it always looking different, because that is actually how you keep people's attention. And, you know, we are so saturated just generally with social media and digital marketing that it's quite overwhelming. And that's true with LinkedIn as well. So you've got to change it up with mixing up your content types. What else have I written here?
We've got about 1 more minute.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. And so I think you might have just the results of this.
Yes. So by doing that, our results are that we obviously went from 4,000 to 26,000 followers, which was incredible on our company page. We've expanded the network. We've managed to get our foothold. Well, not we. They've managed to get their foothold into the new geolocations that they wanted to. We did actually end up doing some paid campaign after we'd got to 26,000. We then actually did some great paid campaigns into those specific geolocations, and that's been really positive. We've obviously increased enormously the traffic to the website, so therefore lead generation has come from it, and people have, you know, reached out, and they've obviously acquired a lot more clients. So Overall, as this slide suggests and tells you, there's been metrics that we've been able to measure quite closely, and they're real metrics, you know, so it is follower numbers, it is website visits, it is new client acquisition, and we know that we can attribute it to a LinkedIn strategy. So my last slide, yes. So optimize those profile pages, super important. It makes you findable, grow your network, both from a brand perspective, but also from an individual expert perspective. That's how you grow your LinkedIn community. And I'm a really big believer in being you. This is how you actually differentiate yourself and be noticed. The good news is we don't need to have that corporate tone, cookie cutter sound. You know, we can actually be authentic and be our real selves. Keep it professional, but keep it friendly and approachable. It's super important to be human. That's how you connect with individuals and brands on this platform. Time and energy. Make sure you put time and energy in LinkedIn. It should not be your afterthought. It is actually, as far as I'm concerned, a business critical sales and marketing platform. And use those positions to cement yourself as being a thought leader in the industry, and leveraging all the LinkedIn features that are available to you. And you'll be surprised, there's just loads of them. And I do a top tip Tuesday, which I haven't got to today, but I promise I will. Follow me, connect in with me, but look at my LinkedIn top tip Tuesday. As I said, it mightn't be rocket science, but I'm guessing that you're probably not doing a lot of them. And that is actually how you'll increase and improve your LinkedIn strategy results.
Thank you. And your top tip might be just, you know, attend more webinars, keep learning and
Absolutely.
educating yourselves. Thank you. I loved that LinkedIn for breakfast. I know we're all guilty of needing to spend more time on our personal brand that will also help our company. So, I do have a few other questions for you, but I'm going to save them for the bucket at the end. There's a couple coming in the Q&A on this, so keep putting those in there. Thanks so much, Lucy. Great. So we are going to just shift into a measurement conversation. So I'm going to reinforce just the opportunities when you look at both. We looked at paid media and also organic, and measurement was a conversation across both of those threads. And I want to share with you how we are encouraging others to both measure and also use a data-driven approach. As we set the scene, it really is about the power of data. Lucy Santo was talking about how dedicated of a database that LinkedIn is. And she also mentioned first-party data. Without that true understanding of where your data is coming from, that's where you're getting quality. So when you look at the data-driven sales engines, data-driven marketing, data-driven marketing analytics, all those insights, you have to know where your data is coming from. When you use this across your marketing strategy, McKinsey reports that companies that are data-driven in their B2B growth engines are increasing their return on growth and their EBITDA in the ranges of 15 to 25%. So it does beg the question why we aren't already there. It really is a core pillar as we create that commercial growth from our marketing objectives, and the results are achievable for everyone on this call. We do like to start with really talking about the reason a few of you might be here today. I'm sure there's you're either facing or have faced a couple of these problems, and not just across B2B, B2C companies, of course, as well. But there's consistencies that every business or marketer does face. Customers are engaging on multiple devices. It's really hard to understand what's performing, and that is time consuming for a lot of individuals. Information and insights is actually only usually held by a few individuals who might have access to platforms or might be your agency. And then information is often delivered too late to really make that difference. It's difficult to really understand your costs, if that's from a lead, if that's the cost of a sale. And we did talk about those buying cycles. So the longer that it may take to sell your services, it might get fragmented and kind of lost in that journey. Knowing what channels are working and also the return on investment as a whole. But ultimately, we're always left asking, what do I do next? When you do have measurement, what do you do next? In terms of knowing what to do next, you actually have to start at the very beginning. So my recommendation really is to always have a qualified measurement approach from the beginning. And it sounds basic, but I can't reinforce this enough that you do really need to start with what you want to measure. Align your marketing goals to the company's business goals. It has to be parallel to those so that everyone is on board with the success of the program. Each channel of your marketing strategy really should be mapped back to these goals with clear measurement KPIs. Building out that best practice for each channel can kind of come next, and then how that aligns to your marketing funnel. I do have two examples for you today, one both with an advocacy program, very similar to what Lucy Bingle was speaking about, and also with content. So we know the importance of content coming through the funnel and how we measure it. If you can't map an initiative that your company or yourself might want to partake to a KPI, then you really should reconsider its role. And then also research and also trial a single source of truth for all your measurement and analytics, similar to Digivisor. I'd like to start with categorizing KPIs, because this does help everyone build a strategic approach. I think there's times where we confuse some advertising and marketing metrics with really some strategic business metrics. So when you think of everything your brand and your company are trying to do, bucketing it into business metrics, which are usually tied to your strategic marketing goals, your traditional metrics for offline media, website metrics, which is a vast portal of information to know the intent of what your audience is doing once they come to your website, and then your channel specifics. This could be advertisements, this could be your social engagements, and then really understanding content. These sit in different buckets. And what I love about this is they also each play a role and as part of the funnel. So at the bottom, you can see that you also can identify where they might sit. And this will flex, and you do need to specify where they will, but it's really building out that approach to each of your marketing metrics. This is an example of where you can very simply, and we don't need to overcomplicate it by any means, but you can put down your company goal on one side and then put your marketing goals on the other. The next column over that I'd recommend is where you really would put that metric. So put that KPI in that far right hand. And I know, Lucy Bingle, you mentioned improving talent recruitment. Even that has measurable results behind it. And so, we can talk about, bringing out that best place to work and content and really getting our employees to engage and measure it through that. So these company goals will look very different and unique for everyone. And we want them to be unique, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Tips to begin a measurement map. So when you are measuring across the B2B funnel, I want you to categorize. So we just talked about those categorize. Look for the KPIs, the stage of the funnel that they would be in, and then what measurement unit we are looking for. You then can start applying the type of content and creative to those campaigns. And then when you're evaluating, you do need to map it back. So everyone will think a different metric is important, but as long as you have kind of an evaluation structure, you'll be able to continue to support your initiatives. So I want to give you an example of an advocacy strategy. So Lucy had a very similar approach in terms of the advocacy strategy. We actually both think it's a pretty missed opportunity by a lot of B2B marketers. It's hard to say that, because I think we're peppering and we're doing different parts of advocacy, but when you look at it in its whole, it's a huge part of your earned media, and it's often overlooked. There are always people and advocates talking about your brand. You just might not have an approach together that really lets you measure, monitor, or reward them. Influencers, we can play to passion areas in B2B and really understand the content they're talking about. This does not need to be reserved for just B2C. Your senior leadership team, Lucy did speak about this one as well, guilty as charged. There are many of us that really need to build out our LinkedIn profiles and really take charge, both from a team, as far as a team, and also for those out there. And then your partners, your advisors, and your employees are part of that residual value. And the better content and social engagement, you create this beautiful engine. Ultimately, you are impacting customers and decision makers, but none of this really can share that story if you aren't aware of how to measure it. So for us, measuring and analyzing the power of advocacy programs really gives you that understanding that it's a vital part of your strategy. You can identify core advocates and also the channels they most engage on, and also see who's talking about your brand when you use an aggregate piece of software like Digivisor. So I'm going to show you that example. When you do that, you're building trust and transparency to every campaign, and you're inviting those same influencers really to connect with you on social. And you can evaluate that campaign performance and really turn social conversations into business success. We also recommend that there's times when you're talking to influencers that you can ask for their approval to also use their content in paid media campaigns. You do need their consent for that, but it's that beautiful testimonial that can, even though we know we're, playing with it just a little bit, it does feel really genuine and organic because it came from them first and then we're promoting it. When we are looking at measuring, and I know that Lucy Saunter mentioned LinkedIn's own measurement tool, but it is also, most advertisers will have LinkedIn within the bigger picture. So they'll have other paid media programs that are running. It's important to understand where all of your content and your audience targeting does fit. And for that, a single source of truth for measurement, you're really able to evaluate the value of each platform, the role they play, and where content was delivered. For example, you'll always see that search campaigns will majority of the time have a lower cost per click than any other platform that's out there, but you might not be able to target them through an account-based approach. And so you have to understand where each type of platform is sitting. And when you're building that out through measurement, you're able to understand their relationship. I also really want everyone to think of, not when you look at measurement as a competition, but how these platforms all play nicely together. LinkedIn really will be your honing in for audience targeting. As we mentioned, the sophistication across job titles, across account-based marketing. You can test your content across other channels. And also don't forget the real importance of using outside of the network to explore with retargeting and bringing those into your website. It's all part of the journey. If we dig a little deeper into content and content measurement, one thing I do love, and Lucy Bingle, when you were speaking about testing and the variety of content that should be on an organic page, you can actually test there before you spend a cent, right? See what engages before you actually put it into market. Once it does go into market in terms of paid media behind it, we really encourage everyone to continue to test and learn. Your B2B playbook is something that should be optimized on a regular basis, and you can always repurpose that content for different elements. When you apply that ABM targeting to LinkedIn campaigns, you can create a journey. We will note that it's always going to be a non-linear journey. That's what we also love about digital. It's not just someone does this and then they do that and then they do this, but it really is non-linear. And the way that we have that content available to them, thought leadership, educational videos, ebooks, and ultimately downloads to secure your contacts, each stage can be measured across in measurement and the content that you engage. So I am going to do a Digivisor demonstration shortly, and I'll show you exactly where you can explore and really drop down in types of content and the importance that it does play from a measurement aspect. So your lead gen is not your only measurement tool here. There's a lot of other metrics across that journey. The last aspect in this section, and I know we've all given a few tips for everyone as they start either their journey or refresh their journey within that. I think that the real thing is not to get too worried about how complex your program is, but just starting in terms of testing. Just don't spray and pray. This is a media terminology that we've used for quite a while. And when programmatic, which is biddable media, first kind of came into, it really is, we are going after spray and pray models of digital media. You have to be tracking and reviewing your results at every stage of the funnel. So make sure that you're not falling victim to that. When you fail to create benchmarks, you're not able to create new informations and future decisions with your marketing investments. So please make sure you're creating benchmarks. Even if it's only been 2 weeks, then you might reevaluate a month later. You have to connect your channels to form a journey. We mentioned that the buying cycle is longer in B2B. When you spend too little or spend too broadly, so Lucy Santer was speaking about this too, you're not actually getting enough volume and scale to really make those decisions and be able to hone in on what really is working for your brand. And then we often see that a lot of individuals and companies of every size are hesitant to secure an analytics platform and fear that it might be too costly or too complex. So these are a few areas that we hope we've cleared up today for everyone. I really can't stress enough the importance of Digivisor to advance your B2B marketing. Insights do make for better decisions. And so I want to spend about 5 minutes, and then, looking at the clock, it's 8:55, so I'm going to do a quick demo, but I really want everyone to understand it's a one easy digital marketing analytics platform across social, search, paid, and web. It delivers real-time insights to make immediate decisions on your marketing campaigns, and there's no complex setups or extravagant costs. So when you first arrive in your Digivisor platform, this is your first overview for all of your social accounts. I'm going to go into our Digivisor LinkedIn. And one of the beautiful parts is that you can sort by any metric that's most important to your brand. You'll see that you can easily flip from impressions to engagements, video views. And when you look at, this is follower count, I can expand and I can look at my timeline, and I can even download any of these charts to be able to use into a presentation as I need. Our paid performance is one of my favorite, not just for the beautiful colors that set it apart, but really this is a synopsis of all of your platforms and all of your key marketing metrics or advertising metrics in one. Now, for B2B brands, a lot of times you won't have a return on ad spend listed here. You actually have to put a conversion value behind the scenes to be able to say that, oh, if a download was worth this much to your brand, you would then connect that in your platforms. So we encourage a lot of B2B brands to look at your conversions and your cost per conversions, excuse me. We then have a beautiful trend line. It's easy to sort by those that are most important to you. So you can go from cost per impressions, your video views, cost per click, conversions. And for me, understanding conversions to spend is always one that's important to share with team members. Now, this is when it gets exciting, because how many times will you be given a media report and you're not sure what actually performed? You've got all of your performance, but you can really dig deeper. You can sort by your platform and your spend, but as you get into more sophistication, you could look at the type of campaigns, so where they were set up in the funnel. So you'll see everything from tofu all the way down to our driving tactics for retargeting. Ad sets let you know the different ad set campaigns you're working with. And then when you get into adverts, you can even open up and get more into, let me find one. You can open up the exact ad that was put into market. So even though this was a year ago, I have all of this information right in my fingertips. When we go into our website, dashboard, and all of these are connected across the very top. You have your overview, your earned media, paid, web, and reporting. You then are able to see full trend lines. I love this for executive summaries that we can share with our executive team members. You then can look at traffic source, so understanding where your referral traffic and your direct traffic sources are coming to your website, and also look at search queries. So a lot of brands will look at their search queries to understand the intent and also keywords that they should be capturing more of and writing blogs on. You then have top pages and can really explore further. We also have a reporting tool that has a PDF download. You can select your format as either an email or a PDF attachment, and also the date range, and get it sent immediately. I do think it's like under 30 seconds. So we used to bake reports, no baking needed. That is there. And the last area is earned media. So we were talking about the advocacy program, and what's great about this is you can actually see everyone that is talking about your brand. So we bring in any users that may have tagged us, that may have mentioned with a hashtag Digivisor. And some of it might not feel immediately relevant, but that's the power. You still want to know who and when someone is talking about your brand. And as you go to explore, this is when you can identify those influencers. Who's talking about my brand that I might not know that I would want to support a little bit more? So just beautiful use of both creative. And that is one of the biggest advantages is that Digivisor gives you a content lens on all of your key performance that's there. So that was a little bit quick from my end. We have a team that loves giving demonstrations. So they will actually help you with your own brand and bring some of your own data into that platform that is there. We do have a special offer for everyone on today. So it's with Digivisor and LinkedIn. Our teams and our brand plans are available for about 10% off. And if you choose to do an annual approach, then that is a 15% savings. We'll then also offer $500 toward ad credit so that for any new or lapsed accounts when you sign up for that Digivisor paid plan. So that's to get you started on LinkedIn ads and being able to understand how you can amplify. With that, I think we might have about 2 minutes because we started 2 minutes in to take some questions. There's some good ones out there. There we go. Let's see. Okay, there was a few that have already been answered. So are there any more, Lucy, that you wanted to explain a little bit further? We've struggled with some ad formats and have some very ineffective campaigns. Talking about single source.
I'm happy to elaborate really quick.
Yeah, if you see one that you want to expand a little bit more.
I think specifically the LinkedIn Audience Network one, because that one can be a bit of a complicated minefield. So for those who don't know, LinkedIn Audience Network is a way to extend your campaigns out to the exact same LinkedIn members, but just off LinkedIn on our premium partners and publishers. And it works really, really well when you set it up right, is probably my big tip. And so we call it LAN internally. So if you hear LAN or LinkedIn Audience Network, same thing, but making sure you're choosing the right objectives and really being specific about what you're going to measure against, because remember that when you set up your campaign, whatever objective you set it up to, your campaign will optimize back towards that objective. And so as long as you've got that in mind and those 3 levers that we spoke about earlier, so targeting, bid, content, all works exactly the same way. Keep that in mind from when you're setting up from the get-go, and you'll see a lot more success when using LinkedIn Audience Network.
Thank you. That was a great explanation of that. And then Lucy Bingle, my last question for you. You had, your strategic approach. Where do most people or brands get stuck or perhaps lose their way when they are thinking about, that first mentality of owning your brand, both yourself and your company?
I believe where they get stuck is often they'll discount the importance of actually getting buy-in from their leadership teams. So they'll think of it as a brand strategy, and they'll just not put enough emphasis on actually getting their ELT or their executive leadership team involved and actually getting them to understand the LinkedIn strategy. Because what I find is once they realize that actually people plus brand plus quality content is what will actually build brand visibility, lead generation, talent attraction, which will create commercial opportunity, then they have this light bulb moment and they all want to get involved. But what they don't know, they don't know.
Very true. Very true. Well, thank you both. I loved your LinkedIn for breakfast. We could probably turn this into a regular series where we joined and had maybe a 30-minute LinkedIn for breakfast on a regular basis. Always so much to talk about. And, I think there's a few of these we could just sit there and have some beautiful conversations. But to everyone, thank you again for joining us. Of course, to my lovely Lucy's, thank you so much. I didn't have to worry about remembering anyone's name, so that was easy. But as a whole, we just want everyone to continue to define new audiences, build campaigns, and test and learn. LinkedIn's advertising platform is the perfect ground to do that. Be strategic and be smart within those investments. Build your own brand awareness and nurture relationships on LinkedIn. Follow experts like Lucy Bingle for all those tips and tricks and best practices. As you said, she's going to have a tip of Tuesday tip later today. And then from us at Digivisor, the importance of defining your goals, measuring real-time performance, and optimizing your entire marketing strategy is extremely important. Do make sure you have that that real-time performance insight tool. It's a single source of truth for your entire marketing ecosystem. So thank you so much, and we'll be sharing these slides. I hope everyone has a great day.